welcome back to another episode of the Recession Resistant Real Estate Radio. I'm your co-host, Brandon Cobb, and today's guest is Jason Wright. I'm super excited to have Jason on. He's a speaker, author, entrepreneur, consultant, and digital marketing architect. He's got a passion for helping real estate investors and entrepreneurs with their sales funnels, me included. Jason prides himself on his ability to connect with people and speak to them in a language that they can understand. He's able to design successful marketing automation machines, all while keeping a positive attitude and a sense of humor along the way. It's important to have that. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. Excited to be here.
Yeah, dude, we're excited to have you on. So let's just before we jump into all the nitty gritty, tell everyone a little bit about what you do today, and then maybe reverse engineer that into kind of telling the backstory on how you got to what you're doing today.
Sure. I love that question. So what I do today is I help capital raisers with the back end of their sales funnel, specifically an active campaign. And what that means is I help them set things up, automations and pipelines after people join the email list. Okay. So most people, especially in this space, they have no plan on what to do after people join the list. So it's a very, very, very niche business. No, it was never the plan. No, it was never the objective. We got here over a series of pivots over the last 7 years, but I would have never guessed would be doing this even 18 months ago. So it's been an interesting ride. The backstory from a high level: quit corporate America twice, wanted control over my time, wanted no cap on my earnings, and I quit too soon. I didn't have anything going, ran out of money very quickly. I had to beg my mom's aunt for an allowance to buy food for 6 months because I was like, we're completely screwed in a bad way. And she agreed because my kids were small. And she's like, I think you're making a mistake. I don't believe in what you're doing, but I'm going to help the kids, but you got to figure it out. So we got through that, had nothing figured out. I tried, I just couldn't figure out what to do online. So I went back to corporate, started building this business, doing just very general digital marketing for people on Upwork. And after about 18 months, I had enough momentum. My wife's like, I know this isn't never going to end. Just quit and let's see what you can do full time. So we got rolling, and we've niched down to the sales funnel, and then very platform specific, and now even avatar specific. So there you go.
So you're very niche focused. You help real estate investors, specifically people who are raising capital for real estate projects, automate their capital raising process. Talk a little bit about that. When people say automating the capital raising process, I mean, how in the world do you do that? What does that look like from a high level?
Yeah, the way I've been explaining it lately, well, from a high level, there's kind of three pieces to it. Piece number one is, once somebody joins your email list, I help with the customer journey the right way, right? Help them deliver value, focused content. And then eventually, when it's appropriate, you can nurture them, a book, a call, et cetera, et cetera. What most people do is nothing at all. So somebody joins their list, let's say they get an ebook. The mistake they make is they say, well, I don't have a deal, so I don't have anything to talk about. So I'm not going to say anything at all. It's like any new relationship, right? It requires effort. It requires give and take, and it better be value focused from your side. So that's one piece we help with. On the capital raising piece specifically, what most people do in like a syndication is they'll announce a deal, they'll send out a pitch deck, and then they kind of hope and pray. And I always say hope is a poor marketing strategy. Mm-hmm. What I will do is I will take what you're doing and supplement it by using automation to make predictable, timely touch points, email and two-way text. And one of my biggest takeaways from this year, Brandon, is touch points are almost more important than content. And people will disagree with me. I'm not saying content's not important, but I also don't think content's king. Touch points, staying on people's radar, giving people a chance to ask questions or question things, getting a conversation started, or even getting it going again is where the value's at. It's absolutely undeniable. And, in a capital raise in each piece of it, using some automation to help create more touch points and more opportunities for conversation, it's a game changer.
So walk us through that. When you say touch points and you're comparing touch points to content, both are important. When you say touch points, what do you mean?
Yeah. So how many times you're emailing somebody, how many times you're sending out an automated text, maybe a LinkedIn conversation through Messenger, maybe a face-to-face meeting, any interaction, whether physical or virtual, is a touch point.
Yeah. Okay. So the number of different ways of communicating with the with the target or
Yep.
potential customer or current customer. All right. So I want to break this down like it's a sales funnel. So I
Sure.
want to start from the very top and then
Mhm.
kind of work our way down. I think that would be a great template for this conversation. So starting from the top, lead generation. What if, for people who are, raising capital or trying to get leads into their funnel, what are you seeing out there? What are your clients doing to start generating leads just to get them in the funnel?
Yeah, one of the biggest challenges is, and this is kind of interesting because it extends even beyond capital raisers, but when I say to somebody, who are you targeting for what you're doing? And they say anybody with money, I'm like, oh boy, we
Yeah.
got some work to do because you've got to know who you're talking to. And I tell people, if you're a dentist or you're a tech person or whatever, maybe if you don't know who you're targeting, maybe start with a former version of yourself. You know how they speak, the lingo, the industry, that kind of thing. So targeting people and attracting people with the top of the funnel stuff on social media and content is always easier when you know exactly who you're talking to.
Mhm.
And you can't, in my experience, you can't necessarily just pick it out of a hat. As you work with more people, you start to figure out, hey, man, this 40% of these people I'm targeting, I love working with these people. They really resonate with what we're doing. So I always say it is a journey. Okay. So as you figure out who you're targeting, your messaging and what you're doing will become more focused. So that's really important. When you know who you're trying to reach, it's a lot easier to figure out what they resonate with and where to find them as well.
Yeah, it's like fishing. If you
Yep.
know what you're trying to catch specifically, you can use the right bait instead of a one size fits all. And I'm just going to hope that I'm going to catch this specific fish. What are some of the lead generation tools that you're seeing that's working for your clients out there right now?
Yeah, LinkedIn obviously is a great platform. It's a great tool. I use WeConnect, which is a LinkedIn messenger automation tool. A lot of people use similar tools, and it's really good because it's you get more connections with LinkedIn. You can get more followers, which is like a new thing they're doing as well. And LinkedIn has pretty good organic reach, so it gives you a great opportunity to do that. Some people are using paid ads on Facebook. They might have a really, really good lead magnet that converts pretty well. So they're using that to get people into their funnel. So LinkedIn, Facebook, and then YouTube. If you have any kind of a YouTube presence, just setting up the links properly, kind of in the notes or the description of the video, can be a great way to drive traffic as well. The people that don't do much, in my opinion, with that stuff, they suffer from over analysis paralysis. Right? I'll talk to people 6 months later. I'll talk to them again, and they're still talking about stuff, but they haven't done anything. So take a chance, start doing some stuff. And if you find success, double down on what's working and keep going.
Yeah, one of the things we've been able to successfully do is leverage other people's audiences by providing value to whoever that is. If you can get on the
Yep.
stage and speak, local meetups. For us, I love local investors. I try to do everything local just because if people can drive to a project, like they're so much more likely to invest in it. Probably half our investors are local here in Nashville, Tennessee, but other people's stages, other people's audiences, if you can leverage that, I mean, that's been absolutely huge. So let's take the funnel down to the next step. So you've got some leads coming in. What are some good converting lead magnets that you've seen out there?
Yeah, it's interesting because it depends who you're targeting. So let's assume, just for the sake of conversation, most people are targeting, retail investors.
Okay.
So what I think is a big advantage or a good idea is if you can make a lead magnet that speaks to them in the language they understand, right? And you can accelerate their learning or understanding with a simple video or a couple simple videos, that can be great. A lot of people, most people are relying on the ebook, the PDF, the white paper. There's a lot of repurposing in this industry. So I dare you to be different. I dare you to stand out. I've always had great success with video lead magnets. And a lot of times with me, it is a screen share video, and I'm teaching. I'm saying this is a misconception. I'm making it easy to digest, and I over deliver. So if I tell you I'm going to give you one video, I'm probably really going to give you three and some other stuff behind the scenes because I want to over deliver. It's really, really powerful. And if you craft your headline and your copyright for your lead magnets, you'll start to get very, very specific qualified traffic into those lead magnets. It's the most beautiful thing in the world.
Yeah, the copy is really important. So you're seeing a popular method being the ebooks and the white papers out there, but you specifically say, hey, look, be different. I
Yeah.
actually send them to a video series or a video that's maybe teaching something that they're interested in.
Yep.
Now, once they come in, they like the lead magnet, they put their email in. What does that automation look like? What does that part of the sales funnel need to do from that point on?
Yeah. So again, I think under promise and over deliver, and it's all value focused. I think after that, it is appropriate and smart to run them through some sort of a welcome series automation that introduces them a little bit more to you, maybe your origin story, the asset class, the markets you like, and why. And it's going to help people really say, "Am I in the right place?" If not, that's okay. And if they are, it could be very, very good. And then after that point, nurturing people to jump on a call is a great way. I mean, phone calls or a Zoom call, I do everything with Zoom, is such a great way to figure out if there's a potential fit between you and an investor. It's so powerful. And after that, everything else you do with marketing back to them is so much more effective. So it's a really, really, it's just a really good opportunity to just start the relationship off just by being a giver and not a taker. It goes a long way.
So I want to dig down in this a little bit more. So value add, we've got their email address at this point, we're dropping value add content. What does that look like? What should go into your first automation when they're first at the dating stage, getting to know you, like I know for us, we use case studies, testimonials, an explanation of kind of what we do and how we work. Like, run us through what needs to go into that automation for value add, or what your clients are doing to have some success at this specific stage of the sales process.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I've always really liked what you and your company are doing. It's super smart, man. Case studies, video testimonials. I love taking a video at a certain point for my own potential clients and going, I know what their objections or their hangups are probably going to be. So I'm going to make an educational video and address those without saying, hey, I know this is your objection, but I'm going to address them and say, everybody I talk to thinks about these things. You're probably thinking about it now. Let's talk about it. So proactively addressing their objections with video and using it as a positive and educational thing is a great idea. You don't need to be too pushy. Persistence and touch points is going to win in the end of the day, as opposed to, extreme direct response style marketing, right? So I think slow and steady wins the race with this for sure, but everything we're talking about is a great idea. The mistake that some people make is they go, in my opinion, they go corporate speak, right? You feel like you're reading from the CEO of a Fortune 50 company. Nobody wants to read that shit. Nobody. So
there's such a need for vulnerability and authenticity,
yes.
Right? I mean, the whole corporatized perfect commercial that you see on TV is just completely out the door when it comes to building a relationship, because it's just pretty much a big facade, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So everything's becoming a lot more genuine, a lot more vulnerable. So at this stage, we've got them in the funnel. They're getting the value add content. And the whole goal of this is to nurture them to the next stage, which is a conversation, right? A one-on-one conversation. Now, I'm sure that people have many different ways of how to go about having that conversation. We've done an entire video on this. If you want to see it, I'll post the link later. You can see exactly what our introductory calls look like. But after you've had an introductory call with this person, because in my experience, very few people close somebody the very first time that they're meeting up. It's unless they've been. I've had instances where people just have been following us for years and they call and they go, boom, I'm ready to go. But that's usually pretty rare. What should the follow-up process look like after an intro call, and what should the content look like, if any at all?
Yeah, it's so smart, because this is always the first area in any business. I always ask people, what happens after the first call if they don't buy, right? What if they don't invest after the first call? What happens next? I asked this question today already with somebody, and I'm going to ask it again later on today. People always go, nothing, or I'll follow up with them once. It's a big mistake. It's a big missed opportunity. I'll tell you a quick story. I worked at Angie's List about 10 years ago, and my boss came to me one day and he said, hey man, if you want to make more money, just keep doing what you're doing, but start reaching out to your prospects more often. I was like, man, I already contacted him like 4 or 5 times. He's like, it's not enough. We've done a ton of study and research, and our most successful reps in your position are contacting people 12 to 15 times. And I was like, I'm not doing it. I don't want to bug people, right? I was
Yeah,
upset.
you don't want to seem annoying.
So this summer, I was curious about it. I started looking at my business, and I guessed it took me 4 or 5 contacts, touch points to make a sale. And in reality, it was 15. And I was
Wow.
like, holy crap. So this isn't me picking up the phone, calling them 15 times, emails, text messages, all after the sales call. So we currently, if we have a sales call, we have a nurture right now that's running 56 weeks. It's email, it's text, it's ringless voicemail. I always tell people I'm not going to annoy you, but you will not forget we exist, right? It's very conversational, more testimonials, things to think about, objections. I know they're going to have it, right after the call, a couple months later, and it comes from doing it. I'll address those. So it's, like you said, it's vulnerable, it's authentic, it's okay to be human. I'm speaking to other humans, and it's wildly successful. We've doubled the size of our company in a year just by relying on a follow-up sequence after that sales call. And the same thing will work for investors. Will you have everybody come around and invest? No, but will you have some people? Absolutely. So isn't some more than what you have now if you don't have to do any more work? I mean, it makes no sense why you wouldn't do it, but yet people argue with me all the time about it.
Yeah, and I'm learning stuff right now because I'm looking at our follow-up funnel, and we do a mix of text messaging and emails to them. And I think if I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 emails, and I think 2 text messages, so we only have 7
Keep
follow-up
going.
points right now. Maybe I need to redo the back end of my funnel and bump it up to 15. A good point of measure whether or not, let me rephrase. When somebody asks me how much should I be following up in the sales world, because I've done everything from building product sales to medical device sales to, investor sales. If you don't feel like you're at least being slightly annoying, you're not following up enough.
Yep.
That sums it up right there. You should get that feeling that you're being slightly annoying. And, with this sales process, it is very unique. When I was in medical sales, it's a very long sales process, a year, sometimes 2 years, depending on the product. The building product sales process was, maybe a few months, 4, 5, 6 months. The investor one's actually relatively short. I'd say it's a few months, maybe up to like 6 months if they're just not in a position. But it's the first type of sale where I don't feel like I need to be super pushy in order to win the business. If you've delivered enough content and education to them, if they, feel like you genuinely understand what their needs and goals are, and you've got those in mind, and they know that, they're going to eventually invest with you. So I love it and I've also done door-to-door sales too. That's probably the shortest sales cycle and the most pushy. I did not enjoy that because I was having to be extremely pushy, which kind of went against like who I was when I was doing that. So I have the most fun out of my entire sales career with this specific type of sales process. So being able to deliver that content and the touch points is extremely important because you're not being annoying.
Yeah.
People are so busy these days. They are, God, they got a 3-second attention span, I think is what it is. The latest studies came out.
Yep.
It is hard to get that attention. Attention
Yep.
is the new oil. The biggest companies back in the day were oil companies, Industrial Revolution, the Rockefellers. Now it's social media because attention is the new oil. People are just pumping and drilling for it, trying to grab it and trying to retain it.
Yeah.
So it's very important to be able to learn how to not just steer the eyeballs in your direction, but keep those eyeballs, because most of the time when they do these calls, they're not like hot and ready to invest. They're, they're preparing for down the road. And if you don't have your message in front of them, if you can't stay relevant, the money's going to go elsewhere. Yep. At least that's how it's worked in my experience. So we're at the point where we're following up with them. We've got, you recommend, at least 15 touch points as the follow-up. Is there anything else that they should be doing from this point onward?
So a couple of things I wanted to touch on based on something you said. Instead of thinking of, I might annoy these people, change your mind and say, I want to keep the conversation going. If you have that thought as you put together your follow-up, for me, it was really important because I was like, okay, now I don't feel bad about it. Then the other question I asked myself is, what if I nurture these people forever? What's the worst case scenario? What could happen? They could unsubscribe, they could buy, or they could say, please never contact me again. You know how many people say, please never contact me again? It never happens.
Yeah.
Right. They either unsubscribe or they eventually buy. This is really interesting. I've had people buy, obviously, first day. I've had people come back 18 months later. So they've gone through all the nurture. They've been in the newsletters. Maybe they've fallen in another funnel. 18 months later, they said, I don't think you remember me. I'm like, oh, but I do. We got your journey right here. And they're like, I'm ready to go now. I'm like, sweet, what's changed? And let me update you on how things have changed in our end. So we've had people this year come back from a year. We've had people come back for 9 months, 6 months. It freaking works, right? The same thing will help you. So we have, I was just thinking about it, 14 emails, 10 texts, 2 ringless voicemail, 26 touch points in what happens after our sales call, plus the weekly stuff, plus people talking to me on LinkedIn and other stuff. And the whole idea is, like you said, I just want to stay on your radar. Mm-hmm. If you only rely on email, how many emails have you and I gotten since we've been on this podcast? A bunch, right? It never stops. Text message stands out so much more than email because the competition is non-existent. How many marketing texts have you got on this podcast? Probably none. Neither have I. But text message gets people's attention and gets them engaging in a relaxed conversational way on a different level than email.
So let's jump into that. I love that because I agree with you 100%. Where in this sales process are you able to capture the phone number, and how do you do it?
Yeah, so 2 ways. So for me, I look at my calendar as a lead magnet, right? If you want 20 minutes of my time, I need your name, I need your phone number, I need your stuff, right? So if somebody does that, if they book through Calendly and they tell Calendly they want text reminders, as soon as they set the call with me, within 5 minutes, they get an automated text. It just says, hey, Brandon, thanks for booking the call. If you have any thoughts or anything before our call, let me know. People talk to that all the time. It's wild. I don't ever use text. I don't ever use ringless voicemail on cold numbers. It's a horrible idea. But if somebody gives it to you on a lead magnet, and especially after you've had that call, once you've had that call, always be on video. Once you've had that conversation, the text message will never be weird. People will be like, yeah, I just talked to you. I know who you are. So it becomes very, very effective once you've spoken to somebody. Now, for all of my lead magnets, I require a phone number. And I literally put, I'm not going to call you. This is for SMS only. Like, I don't want to call anybody. And I understand some of your audience will, because it's a little bit different business, but I demand it everywhere. I get less people opting in, but I get more qualified people.
I see. Yeah. More qualified people in the front, because I think that's what people worry about, where in order to get the lead magnet, you put your phone number in. A lot of people get so many spam phone calls today. They get their information sold. They're like, oh my God, am I going to get spam like this? And so I'm just not going to put my phone number in. I think that scares a lot of people away. I know we thought about, that in the initial stages when we were like, okay, should we just put the email and that, we've got it set up where if they want to book an intro call, they have to do the phone number. And that's how we grab it, is off that Calendly appointment, which is what enables us to follow up after that. So the follow-up process, you prefer a mix of both emails and text messages, and at least 15 points. Do we have that right?
We do. And what's funny is right now, as we sit here right now, so it is 1:32 p.m. Eastern time where I'm at today. At noon today, we launched a new course in my business, Simple Automation, 2 emails, 3 text messages. When that first email went out, within about an hour, we had a 15% open rate. As soon as that text message went out and said, hey, did you see the email I sent you? This thing's finally open. Here's the link if you want to check it out. Our open rate jumped 15% immediately, within 5 minutes of that text going out. And I'm probably making sales right now. But the point is, automation works for you when you're working on something else, when you're asleep, when you're on vacation. It's just such a beautiful thing. And without text, it's not the same animal. Anyway, I just had to plug that in there. It's exciting stuff.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, we've gone over the entire funnel. Is there any information before we explain how people can get in touch with you that listeners should know about this process?
Yeah, I would say I would just encourage you to be willing, like Brandon said earlier, be vulnerable, be authentic, be a real person talking to other people. Because at the end of the day, everybody in your email list is a person just like you. Yeah, they may be a C-level exec in their day job, but you know what? At home, they're just normal people. So speak to normal people, take some chances, right? Don't be scared of what people are going to think. You want to create polarity in your marketing. That means you're going to repel people and you're going to attract people. You can't have one without the other. So ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen?
Yep. Couldn't have spoken it better. If people want to get in touch with you, learn more about your services, learn more about what you do, how can they get in touch?
Yeah, the best way is to go to our website, intentionallyinspirational.com. You'll see everything we are working on.
That's intentionallyinspirational.com. Go check out Jason's stuff. Jason, it's been a pleasure, my friend. Enjoyed having you on the show today.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.